All right, we're doing a valve cover gasket on an M54 BMW. This will be any E46 3 Series, 5 Series. This is an E53. Same engines in an E46. 5 Series is the same era. I don't know if the 7 Series come with that as well? No. All right, we're gonna start with these 4 little pins right here. We'll pull that off. Well, let's get to the valve cover. That gives you a little bit better access. All right, now that's taken off. Next thing we gotta do is take these little covers off. There's 2 little clips on each one. That'll let us get access to all these bolts. There's some covered underneath there, some down on the bottom side. You can see 3 of them right here. That'll let us get in there and get that valve cover off. Covers off, and these are 4 10mm bolts and 2 nuts. So 2 nuts, 2 bolts. That'll take both of these covers off. You gotta take the oil filler cap as well, and that'll let you pull those off. All right, you got both of those little cover plates off. Put your oil cap back on so you don't drop anything in the engine. I just used a short 10mm socket wrench and got those both off. Next thing we got to do is take all 6 of these coil packs off. That way we can get the actual valve cover off. So that's what I'm gonna take off next. Use these, just pull straight up. You pull this clip up. On one that is already up, that one. Pull that up, and I just usually put a flathead screwdriver or whatever else in there. This plug will just pull right off. Got all these up. This is very light pressure flathead screwdriver. Put it through that hole and pull it up. Don't pull too hard. You don't want to break these. I'll show you on this last one back here what it looks like. Right through there, and these plugs just come right off. Right through there. Very light pressure. You should be able to just pop it straight up. Right like that. Now I got all the coil packs off, all 6. Should not have to pull the spark plugs down there, so we should be okay. So we got 6 spark plugs in those holes. Next we're going to pull this electrical cover right here that's got all the wires for the coil packs that go to the coil packs, and these just pop off. So you got a couple little clips right here. I don't know if you can see that. And you just pry that a little bit, and that lets it come out. And you also got the 2 O2 sensor connections right here, and those just pop out of those little clips right there. That just gives us enough room to pull those up out of the way so we can get those bolts down there. 1 and 2. Pull that away, and that's out of the way for us to pull that off. So I'll get this clip off, this whole little electrical box here. Next we're going to start unplugging all these 10mm bolts all the way around the valve cover. You also take this guy off. This is one of your connections for your oil separator. So that's just a pinch and pull. You pinch the top and the bottom, and you kind of rock it back, and that guy will come right off there. Fuel rail's not in the way, so we don't need to undo that. Looks like everything else is pretty straightforward. We may have some of the O2 wires that run back there, so we may have to loosen these guys up a little bit. Those just pop out like that. And those run back here, just the back of the valve cover right there. You can see that little gray wire right there runs back there, so we may have to pull those up, so make sure you're careful with those. But again, I'll take this guy off, and we'll start working on these 10mm all the way around. All right, one thing I missed, you do have one grounding strap right there, grounding wire that you need to undo. Looks like maybe an 8mm right there. So you just undo that guy, pull that wire out of the way, and then all of this will just slide out of the way for you so you can just knock it out. It was an 8mm, so you get that little nut off right there, and you slide that guy off. Be very careful not to drop it in any of these little spark plug holes. You have to get a magnet down in there and take that out. So that'll allow this to slide out of the way, so we'll just pull that guy back right here. Right like that. Give us just enough access to get that valve cover off. So next we're going to start taking all these little 10s off right here, all the way around. You see all those little silver bolts all the way around. Now let's take this valve cover off. The reason why we're doing this, I don't know if you can see it, in each one of these little valleys right below, there's an oil leak. Forget when you're doing all these bolts around the outside, you have some of these in the middle. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 back there. And those are also holding the valve cover on as well. These look like they're just mounting spots for the BMW cover that goes on top of this, so you don't need to take these out. Got all of them off. The one in the back there in the corner is going to be really tough. Just be careful. The ones on the bottom side here and this one on the top, be careful. Make sure you catch them, because sometimes they'll fall down there. I did drop one down there, so I got to go grab that. But you should have 11 of them. I'll take this last one off right here. They're all 10 millimeters. Once you get all these off, you'll be able to pry this valve cover off. Alright, this guy will come off. As will all of these little gaskets. There's little rubber gaskets on the bottom of every single one of these. Those get petrified. They're pretty hard plastic now. They used to be rubber, and those need to be replaced as well when you do the valve cover gasket, because these will leak too, and I suspect that's the problem. A couple of these are petrified and then letting some oil pass through. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to pry this off after I grab that one that I dropped. Again, make sure those wires on the back right there are off. I just loosened them off of these little clips right here to give me just a little bit more play. You don't really need to, but I just want to be extra safe. They're on the back corner right there too. You need to pry them off as well. And they're just sitting there, so you shouldn't have any problem. Just make sure you take those off before you try to pry the valve cover off. You got the 11 perimeter ones. Also, don't forget about these 4 in the middle of the valve cover. And that's the ones I'm going to take off right now. So I got those 4 out in the center right there. And they're actually going to be studs as well. So you got to take these off, and as I suspected, those are the source of some of the oil that we've had seeping into the center there, and those are the ones that are leaking. It looks like these rubber O-rings here go, and it's a obviously item that needs to be replaced when you're doing the valve cover gasket as well. It's like 4 in the center and 11 around the perimeter. So 4 of these studs. All the other ones are going to just be bolt heads. Now that we got everything unbolted and unfastened, you make sure all your wires are out of the way over here and disconnected. Depending on how petrified it is, it should either just come straight up or might need to pry it a little bit. If you do end up having to pry it, do it very gently with a flathead screwdriver or chisel or whatever you end up using. It looks like mine's pretty loose here, so already coming off. We'll just pry it. I can pull it up with one hand here, it looks like, and there you go. This guy's off. So there's your valve cover. My valve cover gasket stuck to the valve cover. So that'll come off. So I have these 2 in the middle here. This is where some of the leaking was coming from. That's where some of the oil was coming through, and then you got your valve cover gasket on here, pretty petrified. One thing to note, you'll see this red right here, and there was some red on the front here. We'll just use sealant on those back corners because those are known to leak, usually around these humps in the back. And then there's a split area in the front here where the front of the head meets the Vanos unit cover, and that needs a little sealant on it as well. So let's get this changed out. And this is what it's going to look like on your car. And this is the M54 motor. This is in an X5 2006. What you need to do, we're going to clean the valve cover off. Make sure that mating surface is perfect. But this is one of the spots I was talking about. You're going to need a little sealant of your choice right here. You're going to need some down here. There's still a little bit on there we got to scrape off. And then down here in this channel, you need to make sure you put some down there so you don't have any leak on that little break point right there. And then on the back ridge as well, you want to make sure you get some over there because that's a known leak point as well. So that whole back angle, I usually put just a very thin layer back there as well. But most important is making sure this mating surface is perfectly clean. That way you don't have any issues. So I'm going to come back, clean this all up, and then we'll be putting the gaskets and valve cover back on this guy. It's also good practice to just cover this up with some towels or something just to make sure nothing falls in there. We're not going to have it open for very long while we change this valve cover gasket out, but it's always a good idea. You don't want any dirt or debris or anything to fly in there. So yeah, make sure you cover this up with something. Alright, valve cover's back on. We got to tighten everything down. Make sure you get a little bit of sealant right there. Seam right here. There's a seam, same seam on the bottom side right there. I put a very small little bit on the front here because it's got these little dollies. It goes down for the cams. Same thing in the back. Make sure you get that whole back side. And I put a very little bit on the rings around these spark plug holes and the bolt holes. Just make sure you get all of those. Doesn't need to be a whole bunch, just a little bit. You should see a little bit. All of the perimeter bolts are back in. If you took these off, you gotta put all these back in where they go. Make sure the cord for the two O2 sensors goes in this channel right there on the back of the head. And then put both of the plugs for both of the O2 sensors back in there. I tuck the wires inside the clips as well so they stay away from the heat. Don't think it's a problem, but I like to do it anyway because they do have a heat wrapping around them. So now you got all 15 studs and bolts back in. Now you can put all those back in. Don't forget your ground right here. I've already put that back on. So you can put all 6 of your coils back in. When you plug them back in, you close the clip. I'll show you in a second. That locks those on. Don't forget your oil separator right here. Make sure this gets plugged back on, which I've already done as well. All right, last coil. You put the plug in. Push the clip down. Clip sucks it in. Push the coil down, and it's on. That's it. All 6 coils are on. Everything's back in its place. All I gotta do is put the 2 covers back on, which are just the 2 10mm on those 2 studs in these 2 spots, and you're all done.